this conversation's around big tech's influence. There's no doubt they've entered into the space full throat, if you would, especially around what you're seeing with the NFC and wallet side of the business. So we wanted to have a conversation about this. I have 3 questions, and we'll open it up afterwards to anybody that also wants to. We would love for this to be a discussion. So, all right, beyond their financial resources, how are big tech companies leveraging their existing consumer relationships and ecosystem integration capabilities to create competitive advantages that traditional security vendors simply aren't able to match in the European market, and at the same time, how do you take advantage of the positioning properly? All right? Got that one? A lot of resources, consumer impacts, hard to compete. I joke and say that the thing that the big tech companies have are 2 things that a lot of us here don't in our industry is time and money, right? So how do we as an industry combat that and then also use it to our advantage? Who wants to go first? John, go ahead.
Thanks. I think it goes without saying that these big companies, they are specialists in big data, and trying to compete with them on that footing is just madness in the current marketplace. So for me, it's about trying to find ways to work with them. And utilize our strengths because whilst they know the retail market extremely well and they've got a lot of consumer data, what they don't yet fully understand is our market and our specialism. So I think it's finding opportunities to work in partnership with these companies, making our products streamlined and maybe start, rather than just focusing on product itself, focusing on platforms. That would be my perspective.
Yeah, and just to follow on from John there, I think as a company that already works with these types of companies in partnership, I think that's the way to go about it. There's no point fighting it. Multi-billion-dollar corporations that have decided to enter an industry, and that's growing every day, and it'll make the industry better. I think it'll make the industry stronger. We'll see new advances in technology and so on, which we are doing. So definitely working with these businesses, adopting some of the things they're selling, obviously, and putting that into your own systems and moving forward.
So I think really it's, if you look at big tech and that integration layer that they provide, it's about how we really sort of take that technology, use that as the platform to really then kick on and innovate the industry. So if you look at how customers are using technology, Apple Wallet as an example is a great enabler for many customers, and they expect this experience when they're moving around in their everyday lives to pay payment card systems, whether it's travel. So again, it's how we can then sort of take these technologies that the big tech give us and implement into everyday security platforms, like enabling access, like enabling locker systems, which we talk about at Swift Connect all the time. But leveraging the technology that's available to us from these big tech giants, partnering and then positioning that in the right way for customers to make that meaningful for their business.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's more to that is the end consumers, right, who is going to use this product at the end of the day. These tech companies have a lot of consumers, the end users who already are using their wallet platforms, and Apple or Google Wallet or Samsung, everything. So they use it for their banking cards, they use it for their transport and everything. So they have a huge customer base, which is already relying, they agree to that, okay, this is secure, safe and secure. And that's what this industry can leverage upon. So say that, hey, we are going behind with the same technology, and we are offering you as another venue to use your secure footprint for your buildings, for your homes, your any places where you need access and keep your things secure.
So on that, you mentioned retail, but if we were to continue that conversation, are there particular verticals where it's maybe a little bit more resistant from big tech coming into, or even if they're adopting it, there's ample opportunity for us to leverage, the knowledge base that we have from security and safety?
Well, yeah. I think the obvious ones are, critical infrastructure and government, where the high security sector, which still haven't adopted the technologies we're talking about, and there's a nervousness around that, and I do think they've gone for more of the consumer. We talk about retail, we talk about enterprise level companies, large volumes, universities. They've sort of attacked markets where there's a large number of people. But I think sectors certainly where it is not really moving forward in that direction is your likes of critical infrastructure and government.
I think what's interesting about these big companies is just how big they are as well. In a previous business, we were talking about working with Apple on the Apple Wallet, and they weren't yet convinced that hospitality, for example, was a big enough and lucrative enough market for them to get involved with. If you consider how big hospitality is globally, that puts some context behind it. So I think then focusing on certain verticals, I've already mentioned critical infrastructure, but care and the elderly, these very specialist sectors that require specialist solutions. I think that's where we can bring to the party not only knowledge and experience that big tech companies don't have, but that they would value.
Yeah, that was the exact statement that was going for too as well. These are tech giants. They have the technology. They can adapt easily. They can go in faster, create new features and models and products that consumers can use. But what they lack is the experience that industry traditionally provides. How to approach a enterprise customer, how to approach a retail, how to approach a hospitality or even student IDs in universities. So that is where the lack of knowledge is there, and that is the bridge that we need to build as industry, from people from the industry and industry experts. Right? That's the platform that we need to provide for these tech giants, where they could invest and bring in more products, and we can adapt to a much quicker technology and a better platform for the end users.
Yeah, I mean, to dovetail onto that, really, there's a huge legacy of security platforms that are in the market as well, which, an on-prem niche legacy systems as well. So again, it's then how customers are educated to then bring that into the 21st century. If you look at government regulated bodies as an example, how we can leverage things like community cloud that they can actually be a part of from a regulated cloud deployment instance, and then anything else like CNI, MPSA types approvals that get these companies out of sort of that baked in legacy system into something current. Then really how you drive innovation and align yourself with sort of where you want to go from there. You've got union-based companies that are going to have resistance to technology replacing people's jobs. So I think we have a duty of care to make sure that we can inform people that tech is not necessarily a bad thing. It's about aligning yourself with tech to drive forward, and bring change and meaningful change to your businesses.
Good points. And then we'd like to talk about the technical side of this, but I hear a lot from you on the business changes that are happening in a lot of ways, right? So can you speak a little bit to what are some of if I'm sitting here, I'm an integrator, I'm a manufacturer, just some feedback that you can give on what are some of the different business changes, if you would, the practices, partnerships, model innovation, right? I know when it first was introduced, there was a lot of forms that needed to be filled out that seemed to be streamlining, and it changed a lot. There's even influences now into things like credential managers versus issuers, and like these are new way that as an industry, we've had some old truths that existed, and we had some predictability. Now it brings a level of unpredictability. So what are some of the business practices changes that I should be thinking about as big tech comes in?
Yeah, definitely. I think integrators really need to be looking at that ARR model, easy for me to say. So like recurring revenue models and aligning themselves with tech giants to almost have that tech layer, as we mentioned earlier on, about being the enablement factor, but then how you can then add services and really be that sort of trusted advisor at the customer end. So you've got the underlying technology there, but how you can really tailor that service for the customer to make it unique to them, but also how and where they want to use the products from the security space. And I think managed services is going to form quite a big part of where the system integrators are going to get into in the sort of coming years and the change that we're seeing in the industry. So from my perspective, that's sort of where I see it.
So traditionally, our industry has never accepted the change so quickly. You come up with a new protocol, it takes really a few years for everybody to start accepting that, and then take some time to adapt those new protocols. But with these tech giants, all these new protocols are like immediately accepted, adapted, and it's available for use. And this is what the integrators should take leverage into, right? So they need to start agreeing to these new protocols that being offered by these tech giants. Maybe they cannot do it by themselves, take some more time, but then these big companies are ready to implement this and offer it for the end customers. So if they could adapt to these things through these tech giants, then that becomes a huge, huge leap towards more safer and secure environments, plus added to a lot of different features and additional modules, as because these people could add on new products and features which could, encapsulate everything else around that industry, not just an access of going in and coming out, but other things also would be easily doable with these adaptions.
Yeah, from an integrator. From an integrator side, I think I spent 20 years in the integrator side, and I still find this issue now that we don't understand it as an integrator. A lot of integrators don't understand it. Some of the big ones do, but the rest are sort of behind in understanding what the technology can actually do for them. We get very set in our ways about systems we use and systems we have used in the past, and the future is a very, very different story. And looking around the room and what the businesses do and how we can save a client money outside of security, outside of access control, how we can streamline that technology in order to give you a better user, a better usability of a system, save money on other systems, not just security. And I think that's a big message I talk to integrators about.
I think some really great points made there. The only thing I would add to it is that these big tech companies are the ultimate market disruptors, and they have the size and leverage to be able to severely impact anybody and everybody that operates in the security sector. I think for me it's speed. They react so quickly, and they launch so quickly, make decisions so quickly. And I think in an industry such as ours, where things traditionally happen very slowly indeed, that's going to be a huge change for us to get used to. But also from a business perspective, I think it is about learning, because they remind me a little bit of the supermarkets. The supermarkets. They want to sell the top 10 books. If anybody here is old enough to remember records, it was the top 10 records in the charts at any one time. Big tech companies are looking to skim off the most profitable elements, and I think that then will leave some space for opportunities for businesses where they can really seize that niche of specialism to grow and develop.
Great. So last question before we open it up to the audience. Overall, net positive or net negative?
I think it's really like a net positive. If you look at just how we're embracing technology anyway, throughout your home, throughout your workplace, I think there's no real negatives to sort of take from what technology can bring to the security market, especially if you've been in the security game for 26 years like myself. We've seen a lot of change in that time. And I think it's probably the most exciting time to be working in security right at the moment, just in terms of the art of what's possible, and also all of the integrations and technology that it brings into our space. So from my perspective, it's positive change to drive forward, where we are. We don't want to be 10 years behind the IT space. We want to be current. We want to be bleeding edge along with these guys in terms of what we can deliver in terms of solutions.
For me, net positive. I think that we can learn a lot from these businesses, and I think that the impact that they can have in terms of driving technology adoption we're already seeing that right across the board, and I think that the more that we learn from them and the more that we adopt and adapt our offer to integrate with things like smart home security, for example. The great opportunities for security companies to move into areas that maybe traditionally they've not really thought about.
Massive net positive. I think to excuse the pun, it's making security a little bit sexy. It was always a grudge purchase, or it was always something that was a little bit dull. It's now making it sexy to companies, and it's offering extra features. And so the technology, embrace it. The industry has to grow with it and use it in the right way.
Hands down, positive.
Thank you. Any questions? James. Make sure you ask the guy in the
Okay, so we've seen a lot of these big tech companies get more and more involved in the access control world, right? And if you think about security technology within your house versus commercial, they're even more involved with things like Ring, let's say, right? In the commercial world or in the corporate world, they're starting to get involved with Wallet. You've seen Amazon starting to play in the space. My question really is, how far do you think they will get involved? Will they go further than they are today? And will that displace the work that any of us are doing today?
100%. I think all the talk of the industry is that it's going to grow into a £1 billion industry, and why the money is there, they will keep coming. So 100%, whether we like it or not, it's going to happen.
I would say it's a 50-50. These big companies, they are going to get involved in more because they're going to create a much more easier product. They are in the business of optimizing their existing products over and over for so many years now. They will still want to see how big they can make this product or how good they can make this product. But what they will not enter into is the traditional security where who would be hosting these keys, who would hold these key sets, and who's responsible for those things. That would still be with the security industry. I don't think these big companies would want to leap into that pool and want to take a dip inside that and set up all those things for themselves. That becomes a different kind of a driving factor for them. Maybe at a software level, yes, it would work, but then when it comes to physical hardware things that like readers or like doors and everything, that's still not going to be their cup of tea.
I think smart security in the home for sure. I think commercial will pose more challenges for them because of the complexities and notwithstanding the infrastructure that we already have, which all of us that operate in this industry know can be an absolute nightmare to contend with, and we've been doing it for as long as we have. So I think we've got to keep an eye on it. We've got to work with them. We've got to learn from them, I think would be my advice.
So I think it's really interesting if you look at companies like ServiceNow and Okta and how they're positioning their businesses for access control on the physical side. If you look at Bearing's partnership with ServiceNow, Okta doing a lot around access control for the IT security space, but now showing an interest in the physical security space and unifying those logical and physical journeys from an access control perspective. I think that's where it gets really interesting, and just in terms of the budgets and the actual foresight that these companies have into our space to drive that forward is really interesting.
Yeah, no, I'll add into that. I think we look at it as like a big homogenous blob. It's like it's going to be the same companies. I think it's about to get really weird because I think by vertical, like I think Amazon has a dominant position opportunity within residential multifamily, which will be very different than you mentioned ServiceNow in enterprise and frankly industrial and some areas like that. Salesforce and a lot of, I think, even can get even further into the SMB-ish type marketplace too for people that adopted on that side. I think companies like ADP, I think you got companies like HubSpot that all of a sudden can do it. And actually, one of the largest competitors, I think, or people we should pay attention to is like Microsoft with Microsoft Places. Anywhere that there's a stakeholder like Workday, anywhere there's a stakeholder that utilizes some platform of an interface where it has identities, a calendar, and the ability to approve or not some sort of policies like can you get into this office or not is going to impact. Ticketmaster in a lot of ways could be a big competitor because of arenas and the rest. I think, again, I don't know what's the largest one here, but like OpenTable and Yelp with the ability to do on-demand services at retail and restaurants. So it's about to get, I think that we talk about value arbitrage. As the market goes from a $10 billion high security marketplace to a $70 billion operational efficiency revenue generation, it introduces far new players, but it also opens up even greater opportunity, and those that change and shift will have an opportunity to participate in it. Any other questions? Good question, James. Good job. How'd Tony do? All right? Good. Any other questions? All right. We got another one?
I guess what's the bigger threat? Big tech disruption or existing players utilizing services provided by big tech?
Good question.
I don't think it's necessarily threat. I think it's opportunities on both sides, and I think it's really just understanding who unlocks the most potential and the most opportunity on that side. We know there's been a ton of investment in certain access control businesses in the same building, so it's how these big guys can come in, take over an existing access control platform, for an example, and drive forward in terms of innovation and technology, versus the guys that are coming from outside with that tech-heavy incentive to drive change and at speed. I think it's just really just seeing who can really drive the most amount of value, depending on where they take their businesses.
Yeah, and I agree. I think it's going to be the next couple of years is going to be really interesting. I think it's how what we call our traditional PACS companies, how they react to this and how they adopt it and how they move it forward and how they compete. So they've obviously got great products. So it'll be an interesting couple of years to see how this all plays out.
It's an interesting question. I think for me, it's probably the latter, because big tech companies have really lowered the barriers to entry into our market. And a company can enter the security market with very, very few resources, just a couple of people, a website that's linked to Amazon, and they're in business. And if they do it well and they do it right, they can make a very nice business out of it. So I think that also we probably don't even know who the next serious threat is going to be to our markets at the moment, because a lot of the big tech companies that we're actually talking about here didn't exist a few years ago, and they've come from nothing, and now they're the behemoths that they are today. So what I wouldn't say worries me at night, but what I'm curious about is where the next Goliath is coming from, because to be sure it's coming from somewhere, and we don't even know where that is yet.
True. As I previously mentioned, it's about the adoption, right? So as long as you stay in your own lane and you don't want to adapt to the new technologies, definitely your business is going to get disrupted. But then these tech companies bring in a lot more new products and new designs and new protocols, and they're not bringing it, they're not creating anything new on their own. They're partnering with the giants of the industry and then bringing it out to the market for ease of consumers use, using the latest technology so that the systems could be integrated and converged. So yes, it depends on how soon or how well the company can adopt into these new technologies, and if they are not going into the market with the flow, and it's definitely going to be disruptive. If not, they're just going to thrive along with the new technology.
Really good question. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. Good conversation.